gang violence and other kind of violence.
Get away! I could be at work, at school, in my car, I can still get shot by the police, but I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.
What's good, YouTube? It's the Black Gen Z Mindset. Make sure you go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe. Let's get into the video.
And today we are getting new details about what happened before a 14-year-old boy fell to his death while on a ride in Orlando's Icon Park. The accident report says the seat Tyre Sampson fell from was in a down and locked position when the ride stopped. That report is one of many documents 10 Tampa Bay's Malik Rankin went through to learn more about this boy's tragic death.
Wow. So I don't know if you guys have heard of this story, but this brother, Tyre Sampson, he pretty much was ejected from this ride that resembled an acrophobia of a Six Flags, but it looked like it was at like some type of fair. But it's crazy because it's a big boy and he was on the ride, and unfortunately he passed away from falling from that ride.
Before we dive into the other reports and documents, that accident report says Tyre Sampson came out of his seat when the magnets on the ride engaged. Those magnets are used to slow it down from its top speed of 75 miles per hour. The ride was inspected in December of last year. The inspection report says it met all qualifications required by state guidelines. In the ride's operations and maintenance manual, it outlines restrictions for riders. One of those restrictions is weight. Riders should not be more than roughly 287 pounds. According to the lawyer representing Sampson's family, the teen was 6'5" and more than 300 pounds. We heard from Tyre Sampson's cousin. She says he was denied from 2 other rides at Icon Park that night before getting onto free fall, claiming they said it was for his weight.
That's when he tried the fall ride, and they told him, they let him get on, but I don't understand, why would y'all tell him he can't ride those 2, but y'all allow him to get on that one?
Icon Park is demanding the maker of that ride, Slingshot Group, suspend operations of all its rides until they're deemed safe by authorities. The Slingshot...
Honestly, I would not hop on any of those rides. I'm not afraid of roller coasters, but I'm not a big roller coaster guy. But this is definitely freaky. And I know this is a 1 in a million thing, but definitely doesn't make you feel safe to ride these rides. I don't care how big he was. You know what I mean? They shouldn't have let him get on if he was not the weight requirement. If he was overweight, right?
Group said it's working with the sheriff's office and ride officials on a full investigation. The free fall ride will be closed until further notice. Sampson's family has hired 2 lawyers. The goal, to get answers for Tyre Sampson's family into what caused his death. We'll show you what they're looking into coming up at 6.
Now, state investigators are trying to figure out how this happened. Good evening to you. I'm Eric Von Anken. Thanks for joining us for News 6 at 7. We first broke this story yesterday on the morning news after the accident happened Thursday night just after 11 at the Orlando Freefall. A 14-year-old fell from his seat as the ride came down and died. The sheriff's office has identified that young man as Tyre Sampson from Missouri. Friends and family of the 8th grader describe him as humble and gentle with a bright future ahead of him. We're told Sampson was visiting Orlando with another family while on spring break, riding the free fall attraction Thursday night with his best friend. Now the family says they're hiring lawyers to find out if they should take legal action. News 6's Carolina Cardona.
Wow, and it's a big boy. They definitely should get their money. There's no reason why they should have let him on the ride if they knew that there was a weight requirement. This guy's huge, okay?
Is at Icon Park tonight with more on this.
The family of the teen is being represented by attorneys Ben Crump and Brian Hilliard. Since the night of the...
So they got Crump on the scene. Maybe he's going to try and say it was racially charged, but it's just, you know, and you wonder why airplanes are having larger people, plus size people, buy 2 plane tickets. And I know he was a football player and he was, you know, trying to be that size. He was purposely that size to get an advantage in the sport. But you know, being overweight is a serious issue. And obviously this is not his fault. It's not his fault. But, dang, I just wish they wouldn't have let him on the ride.
The death, the rides at Icon Park, the slingshot ride, and the free fall ride have been closed. Today, we did see the Sky Flyer is back operating. Earlier today, we spoke with a witness from that night who tells us he and his girlfriend have been having a hard time sleeping in the aftermath of that tragic night.
Just seeing that replaying over and over in my head, like, it's really rough.
It's been a rough last couple of days for 20-year-old Montre Williams. He recalled Thursday night when 14-year-old Tyre Sampson lost his life after somehow falling out of his seat from the Icon free fall ride.
My first reaction, like, it felt like a dream. Like, I didn't think it was real until, like, I actually walked up to him.
Montre says he was with his girlfriend standing in front of the ride as they watched guests get on.
Nobody walked around to see if everybody was securely, you know, locked in.
Moments later, as the ride came back down, the next image he says he saw was the teen lying face down on the ground.
He called me, he said, "Mom, Mom, Mom," and frantic, so my heart is racing. And I said, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" He said, "Somebody just fell from off the ride."
Woo! And I know that messed them up, okay? I know it messed them up. Because it's just like, dang, you on a ride and somebody just, like, literally went splat.
Montre's mom says her son took pictures moments after the fall, but Montre tells us he decided not to post the images on social media.
When it comes to something like that, you want to protect the family in any way you can.
So you took pictures for evidence sake? Did you give those pictures to the family? I wouldn't want to have those pictures in my phone personally.
So I salute him for that because he saw a lot.
A lot of respect for his family and also him.
Both mom and son say they believe Tyre's death could have been prevented.
I feel like all it takes is an extra second for someone to do an extra check, an extra tug, or just asking someone, "How do you feel?"
The company that operates this...
I don't think asking him how he felt would have stopped it unless he would have just said, "Yo, I ain't trying to ride it at all, get me off." Yeah, I mean,
this ride says workers are responsible for checking lights on the restraint system to ensure they are properly secured.
The ride will not ascent unless those harnesses are locked in. And, you know, again, so there were no indications that there was anything different.
As of right now, the cause of death has not been determined. Orange County Sheriff's Office, as well as the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, are investigating this case. No criminal charges have been filed as of this time. In Orlando, I'm Carolina Cardona, getting results, News 6.
Fox 35 investigates. There is now a fence around the Orlando freefall tonight, and the chairs have been lowered. We've seen crews out there all day long investigating.
That ride is still shut down and will stay that way until the company can prove it is safe. Fox 35 has live team coverage. Stephanie Buffamonte is looking into who may be liable for the fatal fall.
But we begin with Fox 35's Holly Bristow. So, Holly, you got your hands on a new accident report that shows that Tyre Sampson's seat was still locked after he fell.
It did say that, and I spoke with an independent ride consultant today, and he tells me if this teen was too big for the ride, that it doesn't really matter where the harness was at the time the ride came to a stop. He says that due to a loophole in Florida code, there's a possibility that that teen never even knew that he was likely too big for the ride.
So, definitely grounds for a lawsuit. And condolences to the family. This is just insane.
If he was over the weight limit, why did y'all allow him to get on this ride? Y'all told him he couldn't get on the slingshot. Y'all told him he couldn't get on the swing, but y'all allowed him to get on this one. Why?
Forensic inspectors from an engineering firm in Michigan spending the afternoon taking measurements and a closer look at the Orlando freefall, trying to get to the bottom of why 14-year-old Tyre Sampson fell to his death from this ride Thursday night. Tyre's cousin, Shay Johnson, shocked to hear the ride operation manual for Orlando freefall lists 287 pounds as the weight limit for riders. Tyre weighed 340 pounds, so he was 53 pounds over the weight limit.
Woo! That's a big boy, man. It's a big boy. He had no business on that joint, for real.
I would rather for y'all to hurt his little feelings and tell him not to get on and see his life would have been still here.
According to the state's accident report, quote, freefall was coming down the tower. When the magnets engaged, the patron came out of the seat. Harness was still in a down and locked position when the ride stopped.
Yeah, just because it was down in a locked position doesn't mean it was safe to ride.
Brian Avery is an independent ride consultant and lecturer at the University of Florida.
You can see that there was a gap with respect to the position of the harness.
Yeah, so it looks like they said the harness was locked in, but he might have just took the whole seat.
In regard to the rider on this particular fateful day.
Avery states he's discovered a loophole in Florida code when it comes to signage posting height and weight requirements. He fears the teen had no way of knowing he was too big for the ride.
That loophole basically says if the manufacturer doesn't require to have signage postings and or identify specific requirements to post, you don't have to have that signage.
And we haven't been able to get on property, so we have not been able to see if there is any signage indicating that there is a maximum weight limit for riders. Now, I will tell you, these forensic inspectors who have been out here all day, I did just confirm that they were hired by the law firm that is working for the ride. And coming up at 6 o'clock, we'll take a look into the training that we've learned that the ride operators get, and also some of the daily safety inspections that they do on the ride. For now, reporting live in Orlando, Holly Bristow, Fox 35 News.
Thanks, Holly. And we also went through the operator's manual for the Orlando freefall today. Now, inside this manual explains how the harnesses are checked. You can see right behind me how this works. Workers pull up this screen. As you can see, the seats here, seat 1, seat 2, seat 3, seat 4, all of those are off, and you can see those wouldn't have been secured seats. But on the bottom, that's where the green lights are. This would mean that the seat is locked. That's how they knew. As you heard on those recordings, the staff claimed that the green lights were all on. And also, here's a look at the control panel. And as you can also see, there's an emergency stop button at the very top. In this case, though, the chairs were about 430 feet up in the air, so the workers may not have known that there was an issue at that point, and they likely wouldn't have been able to do anything in time to stop it.
Dang. Wow, man, that... Buddy just was not supposed to be on that ride. That's really all I got to say, man. It's heartbreaking, especially for the family. You know, it's not right. It's not right.
Anyway.
Now, many of the rides in theme parks all across Central Florida list height and weight restrictions. In this case, Sampson did exceed the weight restriction, but he was still allowed to ride. Fox 35's Stephanie Buffamonte investigates who's liable.
While this case is still being investigated, we asked an attorney if negligence is proven, could there be criminal charges? He said, well, that's up to the state attorney's office.
Typically, negligence doesn't rise to the level of a criminal standard of manslaughter unless it's what's called grossly negligent, and that's a reckless standard. That would be something that's completely up to the state's office if they want to do that based on their own investigation.
Attorney Larry?
Yeah, and honestly, I think this is just, it's going to end up being a civil matter. I know you want to hold a specific person accountable, but it's really just going to be difficult in this situation because there's so many degrees of separation when it comes to a business and the company that makes these roller coasters and houses these roller coasters and whatnot. You can't really pinpoint liability. I mean, you're not going to convict one of the workers, right, unless he blatantly did something.
Gonzalez with Morgan & Morgan, who is not involved in this case, says typically it would have to rise above the level of ordinary negligence.
A lot of times what the courts want to see is what's called intentional misconduct. Maybe you didn't intend to kill anybody, but your conduct was so reckless that was going to be the likely result.
In 14-year-old Tyre Sampson's case, he fell out of the seat to his death on the Orlando freefall ride last week at Icon Park. And according to the operations manual, he was 50 pounds heavier than the max weight of the ride.
People want to ride rides. That's just human nature. And you're not reading through a 50-page contract in the fine print to see, hey, can I ride this ride? It's on the employees to make sure it's safe.
Gonzalez says at most major Florida theme parks, people don't need waivers to get on rides. But even if you did.
If an employee doesn't harness you properly, if an employee fails to see that you should or shouldn't be on the ride, those are types of things where even if you were to sign it away, there would be significant arguments in a court of law that lease wouldn't even be enforceable.
Again, the investigation is still underway. No charges have been made, but the family did hire attorneys. Reporting in Orlando, Stephanie Buffmonte, Fox 35 News.
Tonight, for the first time, we are learning more about the inner workings of the free fall ride. We've learned the 14-year-old victim should have never been on the ride in the first place. Our team coverage continues now with News 6 investigator Maris Badcock.
This manual was written exclusively for Orlando Free Fall, and one of the
Wow, and that nobody's gonna read through that whole thing. Even the employees are probably not gonna read through that whole thing. So definitely a training issue, right? Is definitely something going on where maybe these people are not put in the best position to judge who can and cannot ride the ride. Okay. We've seen signs where, oh, you're too short to ride this ride, but how about you're too big, heavy set, fat, overweight to ride this ride? We don't really see that much, and maybe that is because of body shaming culture or anti-body shaming culture, if you will, which I think is a huge issue.
The biggest bombshells inside include height and weight restrictions for the ride.
Nearly 200 pages written in a manual describe exactly how attendants of Orlando Free Fall were supposed to operate the ride, which killed 14-year-old Tyre Sampson last week when the teen fell from the drop tower during a free fall simulation. According to the manufacturer of the ride, Fun Time Thrill Rides, the maximum weight is 286 pounds. Sampson's coach told us he weighed 320 pounds.
And the other news outlet said 340.
On Friday, we spoke with John Stein, the director of marketing and sales for Slingshot Group, the company that runs the Orlando Free Fall. Here's what he told us then about height and weight restrictions.
You know, we have a size restriction. You have to be 50 inches or taller, and you have to be able to fit in the seat. So there's really no weight restriction unless you cannot fit in the seat.
The manual also describes specific limitations for large people. Be careful when seeing if large guests fit into the seats. Check that they fit within the contours of the seat and the bracket fits properly. If this is not so, do not let this person ride.
And I don't care how athletic a person is, how strong they are, there's no way a person who weighs that amount, suffering or subjected to negative 2 Gs, can hold themselves in the ride.
Ken Martin has served as a ride safety expert for over a quarter century, even serving as an expert witness in several ride accident cases.
The restraint was definitely not properly secured. I know and seen pictures of the ride that indicate there are no seat belts on the ride, which would, classify as one redundant safety system.
But the new records released Monday show that the manufacturer, Fun Time Thrill Rides, specifically advocated for no seatbelt, attaching this letter to the manual. The seat and shoulder restraint system has 2 independent locking devices, and the shoulder restraints are monitored. There is no need for an extra safety or seatbelt because the seat and restraint system fulfill more than the requirements.
Wow. So that joint just shot him up out of the restraint.
The manual also says that attendants are also supposed to manually check the restraints when loading a guest, pulling on it to make sure it locks. Workers are also supposed to check the restraints regularly enough so
Nah, see, if it don't have that little clip in between like your groin area, I ain't even gonna ride the ride. I ain't gonna hold you.
that every seat is inspected 2 times in a 30-day period. If it's faulty, it must be replaced before it can be used again.
I don't know. Did you check it? Yeah, the light was on. You guys are sure you checked it? Yeah, the light was on.
The manual also adds some context to what the ride attendants were caught on camera saying to one another after Sampson's fall. According to the manual, green lights indicate the restraints are closed, no light means the restraints are open, and a red light indicates the restraints are faulted.
The ride will not ascent unless those harnesses are locked in. And, again, so there were no indications that there was anything different, so this is what we've got to find out.
State investigators also released a preliminary accident report. In it, it reads, when the magnets engaged, the patron came out of the seat. Harness was still in a down and locked position when the ride stopped. I emailed Slingshot Group and Fun Time Thrill Rides tonight for a comment after the newest developments came out, but so far we have not heard back. There are at least 5 free fall rides in the world using Fun Time's manufacturing model. 2 in the U.S. at Dollywood and Icon Park here in Orlando have been shut down pending investigations. I'm Maris Badcock, getting results, News 6.
Maris, thank you. You can watch more continuing coverage of the drop tower investigation at clickorlando.com.
And a family member says the teen who fell to his death from this amusement park ride in Florida was turned away from 2 other rides because of his size. 14-year-old Tyre Sampson fell from the Orlando free fall drop tower last week. His cousin told the TV station that Tyre had called him just before the accident. The standout football player was 6'5". He weighed 340 pounds.
Over the weekend, the teen's parents hired high-profile attorneys. In less than an hour, a silent vigil will be held to honor the 14-year-old who fell from the ride and died.
And let me ask you guys this: what's the sentiment on the family hiring attorneys and, going about filing a lawsuit and all this stuff? Do you think that's the right way to go about it? Or do you think there's another way to handle this situation? I definitely want to hear what you guys say. I think it's okay. Ben Crump is a little much, especially since it's not something that's blatantly racial. But I think that, they did it because he's a high-profile attorney and he's taking a lot of cases and all this kind of stuff.
6's Jerry Askin joins us now live from Orlando. And Jerry, you spoke with the teen's cousin.
Lisa, I did, and his cousin told me that Tyre Sampson was here to have a great time and ride a couple of rides for his spring break here at Icon Park. He's from St. Louis, and you can see this makeshift memorial in place, flowers, balloons, and teddy bears here, and his family beginning to arrive for that 6 p.m. silent vigil.
Here on spring break, I had just talked to him a couple hours right before that had happened. It's hard on us right now.
A hurting family in search of answers. Shay Johnson is 14-year-old Tyre Sampson's cousin and said his deadly fall from this free fall ride at Icon Park was tragic and could have been prevented.
Take this down! Take this down!
And that's why she appreciates the show of support she's seeing by even complete strangers, people wanting action. And she's even began this petition to try and make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else.
It's not just me and my family that want that ride down. We got over 1,500 names just from yesterday.
She says her cousin Tyre was here on spring break from St. Louis last week, and she talked to him not long before the tragedy happened.
So he leaves St. Louis, which we all know is pretty much overrun with super gremlins, on demon time, to come to Orlando, have a good time, and it ends horribly. This is like a Final Destination episode.
He really wanted to ride the swing, and they told him that he was too big. Then he said he went to the slingshot. They told him he was too big for that. But y'all did not let him get on those two, but y'all let him get on that one, being overweighted.
Now, as the investigation continues, Tyre's family wants people to see his big smile and know he had a bright personality.
He was a football player, all A's, never got in no trouble. He was a good boy.
This happening ahead of a 6 p.m. vigil in partnership with an Orlando-based nonprofit called Building Generations of Hope.
We do care. We care about the family. We care about what happened. And it's just such a tragedy.
Yeah, back live now as his family is getting ready for that 6 p.m. vigil. Again, you see balloons and even a football there for Tyre Sampson. And I'm told Tyre's mom and more of his family will be at that 6 p.m. silent vigil. Of course, News 6 will be here and let you all know how it goes. We're live in Orlando. Jerry Askin getting results.
I'm here on the corner of MLK and Frederick Douglass, where a shooting just took place. And as you can see, it's a pretty rough area. So I'm basically risking my life reporting on this madness. So make sure you do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Like the video, hell, share the video. And make sure you go ahead and leave a comment down in the comments section to continue the discussion on how we can find solutions to all this son violence in the streets. I'm Jenquavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia, BGZM News.
One of my children, and it's just very emotional.
Thoughts of the teen who fell to his death from an iDrive ride remain strong right now, and as this memorial for him grows, so does his parents' fight for justice. Good afternoon to you. I'm Carla Ray. 14-year-old Tyre Sampson slipped out of the Orlando
Hey, she kind of looked like Adele, well, old Adele, before she lost all the weight.
free fall ride on Thursday night, and we've been covering this horrifying story since his death. Channel 9's Chantel Navarro is live right by the ride this afternoon. And Chantel, since you were last on air this morning, you spoke to one of the attorneys now working with Sampson's family.
That attorney is demanding justice, and this comes as the memorial has gotten larger and so have the cries for accountability. Take a look. There are lots more candles. There are signs for rest in peace. And on that poster itself, lots of people are saying that this should have never happened to begin with.
I've seen a lot of bad conduct by big companies, but this is one of the most egregious.
Family attorney Bob Hilliard is demanding action for what led up to 14-year-old Tyre Sampson falling to his death in Icon Park Thursday. Hilliard says they have video they're only sharing with law enforcement that proves the ride wasn't safe.
It shows as he's going up that the light under his seat goes off, which is an indication that he's not secured.
He and attorney Ben Crump will be filing a joint lawsuit against the ride's parent company.
So Ben Crump is gonna work with a glider? Interesting.
Slingshot. They're suing for negligence and a design theory against the manufacturer.
How can you design a ride like this that's brand new, state of the art, that allows kids to be unbuckled as they start to, rise to 400 feet in the air?
Slingshot tells us they're cooperating completely with investigators and claim the ride was fully functional at the time of the accident.
This is like, I don't know why, but it gives me Astroworld vibes. I don't know if you guys feel that type, but it gives me Astroworld vibes. Even though there's not performer or celebrity performance, it's just like the amusement park theme and all that stuff. It's just, spooky.
Daily inspections were also taking place. Signs outside the ride show the public wants the ride taken down.
I was horrified.
Caleb Danner says, as a dad himself, whether Slingshot was at fault or not, it should be taken down, out of respect for the Sampsons.
In the honor of his family and the tragic loss of a young man, Orlando has enough theme parks. We have enough rides.
Some tourists think that's too far.
Well, if you want my honest opinion, they just need to do a better job at seriously reviewing the safety and security of these rides.
Hilliard says they're not stopping until the Sampsons get closure.
They want answers for themselves, and then they want to be sure that there's not a Tyre in the future that suffers a similar fate.
Hilliard says Sampson's body is being returned to family today, and they're planning on having his funeral in St. Louis, and that's planned for next week. Live in Orlando, Chantel Navarro, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
And we will stay on top of this story as Sampson's family searches for answers in his death. We'll bring you any development on air and online at WFTV.com. And you can also...
This is WFTV Tonight.
The family of the teen who died at that Orlando freefall ride at Icon Park Thursday is calling for that ride to be torn down. Good evening, I'm Martha Sigalski. The accident reports released tonight shows the ride itself didn't malfunction, but other documents make it quite clear this 14-year-old should not have been allowed on it. Nick Papatonis joining us live right now at Icon Park. And Nick, the manufacturer's own guidelines appear to have been simply ignored.
Well, the ride had a maximum weight capacity of each passenger being at no more than 286 pounds. Tyre Sampson, who also went by the name Trey, was more than 60 pounds over that limit, according to his own father. Family members told me that operators of other rides turned him away. 4 days of pain for Tyre Sampson's family.
1, 2, 3.
Morphing into calls for change.
God, we pray that you will shut this whole thing down.
The gathering in front of posters, footballs, and flowers, rallying a community of strangers behind the newfound cause.
I don't really get praying to God to shut the ride down. Sometimes you gotta save your prayers for something that's actually, I'm not saying the ride won't get shut down, but I don't know, man. It just seems weird to me that you pray to God to have a ride shut down, given the circumstances. I don't know, just weird.
I want it took down before someone else get hurt on it.
But new reports released Monday shifted blame for the teenager's death away from the ride itself. According to the accident report, Sampson's harness was down and in the locked position when the ride came to a stop.
You guys are sure you checked it?
Other documents from the manufacturer suggest the ride's operators did not know or ignored safety guidelines that could have prevented the death instead. According to the guidelines, the maximum weight of a rider should be 130 kilograms or 286 pounds. Additionally, all riders must be able to fit into the seat and harness or they should not ride.
You told him he couldn't get on the swing. You told him he couldn't get on the slingshot. So why did you allow him to get on this one if he was too overhead?
He tried the other one?
Yeah, he tried to get on that one and he tried to get on that one and they told him he was too big for it.
Sampson's cousin is now trying to collect 5,000 signatures to have the free fall ride destroyed and a statue of Sampson built in its place.
It's been open for 3 or 4 months only, and this has happened already. So they could have prevented this, and I hope they get everything that is coming towards them.
Family members say what's coming won't bring Tyre back.
Dang, they really did a balloon release. Man, y'all know how I feel about the balloon releases. And at least it's not a balloon release for somebody who was killed by a super gremlin. It's still a tragic situation, but man, I mean, is this all we got to commemorate the dead?
I had to come do it with
some of the balloons getting stuck in the ride. Isn't that disrespectful?
Coming won't bring Tyre back.
I had to come do it with clean up his blood. That was the saddest thing. Had to come clean up his blood.
The accident report also said 2 of the ride operators were trained in those safety and operation guidelines just last month. Now, I want to give you a quick look at the scene here at this hour. You can see this very large memorial that has grown outside of the ride behind us on the sidewalk. There's also been a steady stream of tourists all weekend passing by this site on their way to and from hotels, restaurants, bars, what have you, stopping, looking at the ride, looking at the memorial, and in some cases, as you can see right here, leaving their own mementos behind. Just a very somber sight, and is what typically is supposed to be here, a very happy part of town. Live in Orange County, Nick Papatonis, WFTV Tonight.
And in a strange twist here, we are now learning the woman who had been very outspoken about this whole thing, the woman who claimed to be Sampson's cousin, is not at all related to the family.
Wait, hold on. Hold on. So this sister right here, Shay Johnson with the blue micros in her hair, is not actually related to this brother? So she doing all this on the news, carrying on, and the family don't even know her, going to the memorial, hugging everybody like she can. Are these sisters that desperate for clout? I mean, this is ridiculous.
We heard from Shay Johnson earlier this week. She claimed that she spoke with the teen the night of the fall. But the Orange County Sheriff's Office now says Sampson's mother told detectives that she has no idea who this person is, and she just...
Wow. The clout chasing is real, y'all. I'm surprised she didn't shout out her IG. This is super gremlin activity. I'm sorry. This alleged cousin, Shay Johnson, is absolutely a super gremlin on demon time.
Does not speak for their family. However, the family has not filed a report against her. Investigators say that at this point they have no evidence of a crime, but still not clear why she was claiming to be part of the family in the first place.
She just want to be a part of something. And you know, this is very disrespectful to the family. Okay? I don't know what would go through your mind to make you do this. But like the Migos said, they do anything for clout.
However, the family has not filed a report against her. Investigators say that at this point they have no evidence of a crime, but still not clear why she was claiming to be part of the family in the first place.
The woman who said her name is Shay Johnson has been claiming she is the cousin of Tyre Sampson. The woman's been holding news conferences, hugging people, collecting petition signatures, and...
Well, I mean, at least she started a petition. Hopefully she ain't collecting donations and stuff, because then she'll really start bringing out the Umar vibes with the donations and stuff, like, you know, and shout out to Dr. Umar. But it's getting bonkers out here, man. Like, is it that serious that you want to disrespect the family by claiming to be kin? Getting petition, getting signatures. Like, what is she doing with these signatures? I would feel some type of way if I signed this petition and she got my like email and first name and last name.
A vigil outside the free fall ride, conducting lots of interviews, and now the Orange County Sheriff's Office says Sampson's mother told detectives she doesn't even know who this person who claims to be Shay Johnson is. Attorneys representing the family also told us none of the family members know Johnson. The Sheriff's Office is not aware of any crimes being committed at this point, like collecting funds.
Gang violence and other kind of violence. So it is what it is.